I mean, 2 weeks before we set off on the down, I took part in the first London Marathon.
Right.
A sort of training run.
The first one?
The very first one.
All right, okay.
That would have been 1981. 1981. It seemed like an awful lot of people. I think there were 7,000.
Yeah.
And it seemed like masses of people. And now
it's 30 participation. Yeah.
3.5 hours, which I was very pleased
That's
with.
a pretty impressive time. How old were you then? How old were you then?
Just short. I'm no athlete. Never had any potential.
Yeah.
But I knew that if it was going to stand any chance of doing this done, I had to be on the top of my form.
Yeah.
You know, when this chance to compete in the London Marathon came up, it seemed like a good time for the dress rehearsal.
So you were testing yourself out?
Yeah.
So how did you feel the next day after the marathon?
Awful. Very stiff and so on. But
did that worry you at all in preparation
for the actual dance? I had the services of a physiotherapist with me, a chap called Ted.
You think?
He'd been a physiotherapist to the Cornish County rugby side.
Right.
He was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And in the long break of the hour, I'd be eating and he'd be pummeling away at my legs. And he went through a lot of the villages where the dancers were collected from in the Cotswolds.
Yeah.
And then we turned south at White Ladies Aston, came down parallel with the River Severn. We had intended to go to Herschel, Evesham, that sort of way, but on the Thursday I was feeling a bit shabby. My team said, look, you've done more miles than you think.
Where were you at this point?
Coming down towards Upton-on-Severn.
Right.
I forget exactly where. And they said, we're about 10 miles away from Upton-on-Severn. And they said, you've done more miles than you think.
Yeah.
If you go down to Upton-on-Severn level, cross the Severn there, and go back up to Worcester tomorrow, you'll be all right. You'll still do your 200 miles. And I was on my knees. That was the worst day, really.
How many days had you done at that point? What day was that?
That was a Thursday. That was the day before we finished. And what had happened was when I planned the route, I'd done it on a map. I'd done it on a map with a mapping wheel. And of course that doesn't take account of the vertical interval with the contours. And that's where, over the 200 miles, or nearly 200 miles, we'd actually done something like 10 miles more than we thought.
Right, okay.
So we could cut that bit out, which we did. And then the Friday dawn, it was chucking it down with rain. The first really bad day we had. But it didn't matter then, I knew I could do it, because it was only a short day anyway. We're due to finish about 3 o'clock.
You said to me in one conversation, we had a conversation or two about it, and you said to me in one conversation, I might have got the day wrong and the exact details wrong, so that's why I want to ask you about it, that perhaps it was Wednesday, there was some point on Wednesday where the physio said had given you what they could, and it was still really hurting, or there was a lot of pain, and the physio said, well, that's it, you're in a situation where that's it, I'm afraid you're going to feel that pain for the rest of the way. And that was the point at which you were able to...
He wasn't as articulate.
Okay, okay.
What I said was, come on Ted, you know what, you asked me to tell you everything that's wrong with me, I've told you. Come on, do something, what are you going to do? He said, who else when he was? He said, nothing. I said, well, what's the matter? You fucking knackered. And it was then that I realised that when these start to give up the leg, you know, this has got to take over, you've got to drive yourself off.
Yeah.
And it was hard. That was a Thursday. That was the worst day of all.
So it was Thursday.
It was a Thursday.
That's the Thursday he said that to you.
I got to the Thursday morning and I didn't really want to go on. I'd lost interest, you know.
Yeah.
Except that I knew I had to. There was no spring in the step. There was nothing. That's what he said. And I thought, right, you got to go. And then the lads came back at tea time, at the tea stop, and said, look, you could cut this chunk out. And that boosted the morale as well. Faithful City Morris men who come from Worcester, they came and joined me for the evening session. I think some of my lads had rung up and said, you know, Jim needs a bit of a filling, come along and dance with him if you can. They all turned up and danced along with me.
So who set off with you? Tell me who set off with you.
Who?
Who set off with you from the first day? Who's with you all the way?
We had a team of, I think it was about 12. Roger was the cook.
Yeah.
Roger Dawson was the cook. Peter Franklin, Peter Coley, and Paul Burgess did the music between them, most of the music. Roy Franklin was my road manager. Martin Kift was along as well. Jeff Metcalf came out for a few days. The late great Jeff Metcalf, you'll have heard of him before you were born. And of course, particularly over the Easter weekend, as we went through the Cotswold villages, the sides who were resident there turned out to support me.
Was Wayne there? Yeah. Wayne's mentioned. Yeah, he was there before.
Wayne was the navigator, next door to the driver. He was actually responsible for reading the map.
Right. Where was the physio with you all the time?
Yeah, we had I danced in a sandwich. There was a Sherpa van in front with the exhaust diverted up into the air. The doors were open at the back, and the music, if it wasn't walking along with me, sat on the tailboard and played.
Who was playing the music then? Who was playing the music?
Peter Franklin, Paul Burgess, Peter Coley, I think that was it. And of course, some of the time young Ben was dancing along with me. And I didn't know, but he was saying to himself, I'm going to have this guy's record off him. And he did.
He did.
And he didn't, because he never got as far as I did.
No.
But he got into the Guinness record.
He made it official, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Well, we tried.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, there's no point, nobody will ever do it, you know, so... Yeah. It was fantastic.
So the total number of miles was, in the end,
202.2.
202.2.
Yeah. In 6 days, 6 hours and 33 minutes, sorry.
Well, there is a world record, and it's the longest distance Morris danced in 7 days, and it's 147 miles danced by Ben Dauncey of Ravensbourne Morris men, but there is still an unofficial world record for that, which is your 202.2 miles by Jim Bartlett, also of Ravensbourne Morris men.
And if somebody really wants the crown, they've got to beat that, you know?